Your grandfather's land is ours now. That's what she barked, finger wagging from her side of the street. Like the louder she got, the more true it had become. And all I could do was stare, barefoot on the porch my grandfather built, on land I'd just inherited. My heart thumping because, honestly, part of me wondered if you could actually lose everything you love to someone's sheer nerve. Let me back up a sec, because it gets wilder. Next thing I know, she's dialing 911, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. And in 5 minutes I've got police lights flickering all over my grandfather's old truck, neighbors peeking out from behind curtains, dogs barking, and me, the supposed trespasser, standing there on what's supposed to be my own soil. That was my welcome home. Yeah, that happened. Now, if you're watching, you might want to stick around, because this story goes from insane to, well, let's just say you'll want to see the ending. Anyway, that first morning I swung open the old gate with NC 1978 carved deep into the post, the wood rough but familiar under my hand. Then Evelyn Hart, the HOA president, comes hustling across the road, practically spitting sparks. This land belongs to the HOA. Your grandfather signed it over for the good of the community, she shrills. I just stared, stunned. What documents? Granddad never mentioned giving away anything. And as a former building inspector, I know what a real transfer looks like. Paperwork, signatures, the whole parade. Not a neighbor shouting across a patch of crabgrass. But Evelyn, man, she was brimming with confidence, standing like a judge and jury in her sweatpants. The scene was nuts. My coffee, untouched inside, growing cold while Mrs. Thompson next door started whispering at her gate, and the guy with the blue truck slowed down, filming. Even the jogger who never stops actually stopped. Evelyn waved her phone around and, like she was auditioning for a reality show, dials 911. Someone's blocking access, trespassing on HOA land, she declared, as if repeating nonsense would turn it to fact. I watched the deputy's cruiser roll up, parking between Evelyn's shiny sedan and my grandfather's pickup, and honestly, the absurdity almost made me laugh if my hands hadn't been shaking. Deputy Blake, calm, professional, looked like he'd seen it all, took my deed, my grandfather's will, the probate court's transfer. Everything notarized, everything filed. These documents are legitimate, he tells Evelyn, looking her dead in the eye. Do you have legal proof this land was transferred to the HOA? She stammered, pointing at the grass. We've mowed it for years. As if pushing a mower equals property rights. The deputy shook his head. Understanding isn't legal transfer, ma'am. Then I showed him the giant oak tree that split my land from theirs, roots older than most mortgages on the block. The HOA's grass line stopped a good 8 feet before the tree. Even their trash cans never crossed past my gate. It was like the world had always respected that invisible line, and only now, with Granddad gone, did anyone feel bold enough to pretend it wasn't there. But the best part? That very afternoon, I got a welcome basket on my porch, cookies, flowers, and a bill for $75 with a list of HOA fees for things like exterior paint approval and lawn violations. Yeah, nothing says neighborly love like an invoice you can't legally collect. I laughed, actually laughed, because their official-looking letterhead couldn't hide the fact that it was legally meaningless. I walked the perimeter, checking every marker, measuring distances like I used to do for work. Not a single HOA service reached past my gate. The lights, the sidewalk maintenance, all ended at the same spot. Martha, who'd been there longer than anyone, told me, "Your grandfather always kept this house out of the HOA. Paid for his own trash, snow removal, everything." She knew, and so did the local handyman, who'd fixed up half the houses on the street. "The HOA doesn't go past post number 3, he said, no agenda, just the facts. But Evelyn wasn't giving up. The next morning, there was a certified letter from a lawyer threatening a lien for unpaid HOA fees. It was thick, official, and, once I read it, completely hollow. It actually quoted state codes that supported my case, not theirs. Either the lawyer didn't read, or Evelyn lied to him. That kind of desperation, it's almost sad. Then the rumors started. People texting when I walked by, neighbors asking, "Are you really suing the HOA? Evelyn said you're trying to ruin the neighborhood." She'd painted me as some villain, using grandfather clauses to wreck community harmony. All I wanted was what Granddad left me. I remembered him telling me, This tree marks where community stops and family begins, Noah. He'd even nailed an old surveyor's tack right into the bark. And that tree, by the way, wasn't just a symbol. Hidden under a ridge in the bark, I found a brass key. Walter, the retired electrician who watched all this unfold, just nodded like he'd known it was there all along. Your grandfather believed in documenting truth, he said, hinting there was more to come. But while I was digging for facts, Evelyn was busy poisoning the well. Suddenly, the hardware store refused service. The lawn guys blocked my yard. Delivery apps started dropping my address. Even the mail carrier started looking nervous, saying there was pressure to reclassify my house as HOA. But he handed me a slip. The HOA's request to annex my land had been rejected years back by federal postal authorities. That was evidence, real evidence. I wasn't her first target. She'd pulled the same stunt before, and most folks just gave up and sold. That afternoon, the county sent an inspector. Unpermitted structures, possible environmental hazard, the report said. I just shook my head. The guy did a thorough walkthrough, checked every wire and outlet. Everything exceeds code. These reports are baseless, he said, almost annoyed to have his time wasted. It was time for the truth to come out, so I called a community meeting. Martha brought a stack of old photos, Granddad running a generator line during the ice storm, helping Evelyn's family after a flood. Yeah, the same Evelyn. People needed to see who was really serving the community. And then Walter, quiet all these weeks, showed up with a contractor's bill. HOA streetlights end at post number 3, private billing beyond. The line was real, legal, documented. Then came the twist. Evelyn herself stormed in and, in front of everyone, smashed my grandfather's bamboo wind chime, flinging the pieces across the lawn. That chime had hung there for 20 years, a gentle sound in every family gathering. Now, a dozen phones caught her meltdown, her shouting, "Old decorations don't decide property lines." That was it. Walter, usually soft-spoken, stepped up. That's criminal vandalism, witnessed by everyone here. His calm authority caught the room. And suddenly, everything shifted. Evelyn had lost the crowd. But she wasn't done. The next day, anonymous texts blasted through the neighborhood. Noah Carter was fired for safety violations. Can we trust him? It was a lie, but she was desperate. I put up a display of family photos, Christmases, birthdays, graduations, all with the HOA marker in the background. Unstaged proof that the boundary had always existed. The hardware store owner came by, quietly apologized, and handed over receipts showing Granddad had always been a private customer, never part of any HOA group billing. Remember that key I found? Walter and I followed its trail to a weatherproof box buried under the oak. Inside, legal gold. The original HOA charter, survey maps, county correspondence, signed papers, all stating in plain English, HOA ends here. Jurisdiction terminates at the oak marker. Private property beyond. Walter looked at me, then at the crowd. I was chairman of the founding committee, he said, voice steady as bedrock. We set this boundary to protect everyone's rights. This expansion, this harassment, was never legal. You could feel the air change. Even Evelyn's supporters couldn't argue with signatures and government stamps. The meeting hall overflowed. Walter read from the original documents. The HOA board voted, unanimous. Evelyn was out as president. Deputy Blake handed her citations for vandalism, false reports, misuse of county resources. Restitution? She had to fix what she broke, pay the legal fees, remove all her unauthorized junk from my yard, and put her signature to an official acknowledgement of the boundary. The new president, a woman named Sharon, started by apologizing, promising new bylaws, clear communication, and an end to the madness. The community threw a little party, hung up the new boundary sign, and Walter helped me restore the bamboo wind chime. For the first time since Granddad died, I felt peace. But let's be real. This wasn't just about one yard or one stubborn neighbor. It was about standing up when the noise gets too loud, about the strength it takes to prove what's true when everyone's yelling something different. The law stood firm, the truth was quiet but relentless, and justice. Yeah, justice finally felt real. So what do you think? Did Evelyn get what she deserved? Should private rights always trump community claims? Drop your thoughts below, because honestly, the debate's just getting started. And if you made it this far, give a like, leave a kind word, and may your neighbors stay sane and your fences stay strong.